It's 7:03, according to my atomic clock. So we should get our seats taken so we can get the meeting underway. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the deliberative session of town meeting. My name is Rodney Stark. I'm town moderator. This is my 40th year doing it. Anyway, we don't have a color guard tonight because all the scouts are busy doing other civic activities. So you're gonna have to follow me in the pledge. So would you please stand? The flag's up on the stage. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. I'd like to introduce the head table. Starting on my far right. Kathy Ball is supposed to be sitting at the end of the table, but she's not. She's sitting over there. Town clerk. Gail Lebrecht is our scribe. And to my immediate left, well, to my immediate right is Jim Raymond, who isn't there either.
I went to get the papers.
Okay.
No fighting, girls.
To my immediate left is Peter Georgianis. He's the chairman of the select board. And to his left, Peter Georgianis. I'm sorry.
Good evening.
Yes. And then we have Collis Adams, and then Chet Bowen, and then Kelly Boyer. That's the Board of Selectmen. And next to Kelly is the Town Administrator, Derek Horn. And next to him at the end of the table is his Assistant Town Administrator, Danielle Basora. I'd like to recognize dignitaries who may be in attendance. If you are in attendance and if you'd like to be recognized, just stand up when I call your name. We have department heads, Police Chief Eric Serino. Fire Chief Brian Allard. Public Works Director Adam Jacobs. Library Director Diane Hathaway. Parks and Recreation Director Rick Wilhelmi. Budget Committee members, again, please stand if you wish, that's your choice. The chair is Cole Reel. Vice Chair Jeffrey O'Brien. Joseph Alexander, Jr. Susanna Buzzell. Spencer Diaz. Peter Gregorkius. I didn't say that right. I never do. William Cordes. Dennis Lynch. Richard Manzo. Eileen McInerney. Carl Soderquist. Richard Fletcher, the Water Precinct Rep. Jared Talbot, School Board Rep. Selectwoman Kelly Boyer. State representatives are Joe Alexander Jr., Cole Reel, Barbara Griffin, Michael Gunsky, Fred Platt, John Burt, and our state senator, Lou D'Alessandro. Okay. I'd like to recognize Rick Wilhelmi for the presentation of the Robinson Colorado Volunteer Award.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome. My name is Rick Wilhelmi. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation. For the past 10 years, I've had the opportunity to work with many people of all ages in sports, recreation, and leisure activities for the town. So many fellow colleagues and volunteers share the same common goal created by creating a means of laughter, enjoyment, and social engagement within our town. I'd like to thank our Parks and Recreation Commissioners at this time, Chairman Howard Sobolov, Vice Chair Jane Stekowicz, Brad Parkhurst, Kevin Daigle, Gary Gendron, Alex Hill, Pam Decker, and Peter Hooker. Brad is here. All right, Brad, attaboy. I'd like to also thank all the other town independent groups who provide our community with recreation, sports, and leisure activities. It's all a great program that we have in our community. We all know for any community to be strong, it relies on the resources of people within it. And Goffstown has a strong community of dedicated individuals volunteering in so many different ways, all with similar goals, to provide programs and facilities to all residents which help foster a strong community spirit. I'm here tonight to present the 31st Annual Clint Robinson Lionel Colorado Community Volunteer Award. The Parks and Recreation Commission and the Select Board give this award annually to the person or group that best exemplifies the spirit of volunteerism for the community of Goffstown, as shown by Clint Robinson and Lionel Colorado. This year's Robinson Colorado Award is being presented to a wonderful gentleman who has been a volunteer for many years, Brad Parkhurst. Thank you, Brad. Brad, come on down, Brad. I'm gonna boast you up here. Come on up. Stand right here, Brad. Right here. You gotta stand right here. There you go. Oh boy. That's it. Okay. Brad moved to Goffstown in 1973 with his wife Pam and his children Dan and Diana. As mentioned above, Brad worked for Goffstown Parks and Recreation Department for many years and continued to volunteer in his community well beyond his children Dan and Diana. They all left the programs. Brad continued. Brad's community involvement began with the Goffstown Junior Baseball, Tri-Town Recreational Soccer, Goffstown High School Athletics. While with GJB, he volunteered for 15 plus years as a board member, coach, manager, umpire. He was a broadcaster for the minor Major League Babe Ruth League. He served as president of the minor league in 1985. In Tri-Town Recreational Soccer, he was in that program for 23 years, again, well beyond his children's years of playing. He volunteered as a board member, referee, coach, manager, field coordinator. He actually mowed the field with a little yard tractor at one point and was part of a group who developed the now known United Travel Soccer program back in the day. Brad also volunteered on the State Travel Organization Board. Brad was always more than willing to manage the score clock for GHS when his daughter was playing basketball. Past 5 years, he's been very active with Goffstown High School softball as an announcer. Brad has always been involved during town election time, setting up, dismantling the voting stations, and staffing the polls for the day. As a result of Brad's volunteer commitment, he serves also on 2 committees, GTV and Parks and Recreation Commission. Brad has been a Parks and Recreation Commissioner since 2012, and is now serving his third term. He was the chairman of GTV committee, and I don't know if he's still going on that. You still going on that? We, as his community, owe him a debt of gratitude for all he has done since moving here in 1973, and hope he will continue to grace us with his presence in the future. On behalf of the Parks and Recreation Commission and myself, we congratulate you and thank you for your exceptional volunteerism in this community. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. You will be seeing me around a week today. At a polling
Thank you,
place
Brad.
just up the street.
All right. I'm going to run through the preliminaries here. To change my glasses. As most of you know, at the 1996 town meeting, the town voted to adopt what is known as Senate Bill 2. This act is referred to as the standardized official ballot referendum system. It replaced what we all knew as traditional town meeting. And it's under this system that the town in general, and this meeting in particular, will conduct its business. Here's a few of the rules that we'll be following tonight. Obviously, there's no smoking anywhere on the school grounds. To assist in standing votes, registered voters have been given a voting card. I hope everybody got one when you checked in, and you signed it. So during a standing vote, you must display that card. If you have not signed it, please do so. You'll be asked to return these cards to the checklist table if you leave before the meeting ends. All speakers must use the microphones, and they're located, well, you can see where they're located. Show their voting card, state their name, spell the last name for the scribe. The most important thing for you to know is that we will not be voting to pass or defeat any warrant article tonight. All warrant articles will be on the town's official ballot, which will be voted upon at the second session of this town meeting. That voting will take place on March 10th, here at the high school and at Bartlett Elementary School. At tonight's meeting, Articles 6 through 14 will be open for discussion, debate, and amendment. The first 5 articles are zoning articles, which we don't have to deal with tonight. If an amendment is properly offered, it will be discussed, debated, and voted upon. If an amendment to a particular warrant article is adopted by this meeting, the article as amended will appear on the official ballot for voting on March 10th. With respect to amendments, please keep in mind that the purpose of the warrant is to simply place the, quote, subject matter before the voters. Senate Bill 2, by allowing amendments, allows the same range of possible amendments which voters have always had under the traditional town meeting system. Amending appropriations articles up or down is permitted. Details as to how a warrant article subject matter is to be treated, or the addition or deletion of terms and conditions to the article, can be accomplished through amendments as long as they relate to the general subject matter of the article. Substantive amendments not relating to the article's subject matter will be ruled out of order and will not be accepted by the moderator. Further, with respect to amendments, as in the past, all amendments must be presented to the moderator in writing. Forms are available in the hall for that purpose. Kathy Ballard's brought all sorts of forms which are available up front, right? Proposed amendments must be moved to the floor and seconded before any discussion of the proposed amendment will be allowed. Following discussion on the proposed amendment, a vote will be taken on the amendment. Following the vote on the amendment, discussion will resume on the main article. At the conclusion of the discussion on the main article, there will be no vote on the article. We will simply begin the consideration of the next article. The previous question is a procedure which will apply to the conduct of this meeting. After an article or a proposed amendment to an article has been discussed, a voter may move the previous question. This motion is not debatable. A yes vote on the previous question means there will be no further discussion on the main article or the proposed amendment, as the case may be. A simple majority vote is required to pass the previous question and thus end the debate. In 2011, the legislature amended RSA Chapter 40, Section 13, to prevent the practice of amending an article to eliminate all words but "to see." Please do not offer amendments which attempt to do this because they are not allowed and will not be accepted by the moderator. Prior to a voice or standing vote on a proposed amendment, 5 registered voters may make a request in writing for a written secret ballot. These 5 voters must be present at the meeting when the vote is taken. Once a voice vote has been taken or a standing vote is underway, a written request for a secret written ballot may be made. This request must be made by 7 registered voters who are present at the meeting before any other business is begun. Forms are available for this purpose. If we have a written ballot, you need to show your voting card. This card will be initialed by the ballot clerk as you are handed your ballot. All written ballots which are cast must be whole. If a cast ballot is torn, ripped, or crumpled up, it will not be counted. You may fold your ballot if you wish, but please do no more. In the case of a tie vote, it is recognized by voting authorities, most notably Robert's Rules of Order, that the moderator protects his impartial position by exercising his voting right only when the vote would affect the outcome, in which case he can either vote and thereby change the result, or he can abstain. Since a majority is necessary to pass a motion, the motion fails if the result of the vote is a tie. In my 40 years of moderating town meetings, there has only been one dead even tie. That was on the article to raise and sell the building I was born in, the Moore General Hospital. A motion to reconsider can only be made by a person who voted with the prevailing side. It may be seconded by anyone. It is debatable and requires a simple majority for passage. A motion to restrict reconsideration may be made with respect to any vote taken at this meeting or any warrant article previously considered at the meeting. This motion is not debatable and requires a simple majority for passage. Finally, please note that I will not tolerate derogatory comments to be made about any speaker or person in this hall, so please be civil. I'd like to have a motion.
Motion to dispense with the reading of the warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Article 6 is the town's operating budget. I recognize Selectman Boyer.
I
Second.
Selectman Boyer? Let me just say, if it's acceptable to the meeting, I'm not going to read Article 6. Does anybody want me to? It's printed in the warrant. Thank you. You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. The town operating budget consists of two funds, the general fund and the sewer enterprise fund. Prior to 2017, the operating budget also included the EMS Special Revenue Fund. At the request of the Department of Revenue Administration, the EMS Special Revenue Fund appropriation has been moved to a separate Article 7. If Article 7 fails, EMS operations will be funded by the general fund. The proposed operating budget is $23,714,941. We'll focus this presentation on the general fund, as that is the only fund which impacts the town's property tax rate. The general fund budget is up $1,285,835 over last year's budget, and the general fund revenue is up $90,818, resulting in an increase to the town's tax rate. This is a large increase in the general fund budget, and it can be broken out into three different categories. The first category includes items approved at past town meetings. The first of those things is the 4 collective bargaining agreements that had contractual wage increases in 2020. The second is the 2019 town meeting approval, hiring of 4 new firefighters with the offsetting FEMA grant revenue. The breakdown of these 4 new positions is 100% of the appropriation is in the operating budget, 75% of that covered by the FEMA Safer Grant in 2020 and is shown on the revenue side, and 25% of that is the town share. There's also an additional reclamation fund in the operating budget based on wording in the 2019 road plan special article. The select board started with the additional funds approved at 2019 town meeting in the operating budget. While some of these funds were removed during the budgeting process, there's still an increase over last year's operating budget of $125,000. The second category of increases includes some unique expenses that only show up every few years. The first is that this year the town has a 53rd payroll week in 2020, which amounts to $186,369,000. The town also has 4 elections this year. The final category are all other increases in the budget. The town's insurance benefits have a 4% increase in 2020. This is based on town's claims expenditures. The budget also includes non-union wage increases of $118,050. Eligible non-union employees would receive a 2.5% step increase effective July 1st. The budget includes a matrix adjustment for library employees, which follows the matrix adjustment approved for the town's non-union employees in 2019. Finally, there are increases in the town's CIP capital improvements program portion of the operating budget. There's an increase of $370,996 over 2019. As you may recall, in 2019, the Select Board proposed many special articles to fund one-time capital projects with the use of unassigned fund balance. This year, the Select Board is only proposing special articles to deposit into 2 capital reserve funds and add funds to the road plan. If this article fails, the default budget shall be $22,804,287. If the operating budget passes, the town portion of the tax rate is estimated to increase by 43 cents per thousand. If the operating budget fails, the default budget is estimated to increase the town's portion of the tax rate by 20 cents per thousand. This article is recommended by the Select Board and the Budget Committee.
Open for discussion? Is there a motion?
I move to restrict consideration of Article 6.
Second.
Okay, there's a pending motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 6. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion passes. We'll go to Article 7. I'm going to recognize Selectwoman Boyer.
I move Article 7 to the floor.
Second.
The EMS Special Revenue Fund was established in 2001, and 100% of all revenues collected from EMS operations is deposited into the fund. Traditionally, the EMS Special Revenue Fund budget has been included as part of the overall operating budget appropriation articles. In 2017, the Department of Revenue Administration issued guidance that all appropriations for special revenue funds should be made in separate warrant articles because they require an affirmative annual vote by the legislative body. This article asks voters to fund 2020 EMS operations from the EMS Special Revenue Fund with no fund to be raised by taxation. The EMS Special Revenue Fund has an available balance of $392,245 as of December 31st, 2019. The proposed 2020 EMS budget is $634,408, which is an increase from $20,449 in 2019. If Article 7 passes, Article 6, the operating budget, will be reduced by the amount of the EMS operations. If Article 7 fails, EMS operations will be funded through taxation, which will increase the tax rate by 37 cents per thousand. If Article 6 and 7 both fail, the default budget for EMS operations is $608,456. This article is recommended by the Select Board and Budget Committee.
Floor is open for discussion on Article 7.
Move to restrict reconsideration of Article 7.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion made and seconded to restrict reconsideration of Articles 7. See, that's not a debatable motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll move, that passes. We'll move to Article 8.
I move Article 8 to the floor. Second. Second.
I made a mistake on the Article 6. I'd just like to correct it for the record. Not on the article, but when I stated that the motion to restrict reconsideration was open for debate, it is not. It's not a debatable motion, so it didn't make any difference, but I just want to make that clear. It was my mistake, and I'm not going to do it again. Okay, so Article 8, have you moved it?
Yes. Been moved and seconded.
It's moved and seconded. And Mr. Lemay.
Good evening. The Fire Department Apparatus Capital Reserve Fund was established in 2008 for the purpose of helping defray the single-year impact on replacement of cost of modern fire apparatus, which can run between $650,000 to $1.5 million. This capital reserve fund helps to spread the cost over multiple years to avoid spikes in tax rate. This fund can also provide town leverage in the form of local matches when seeking grants to replace apparatus. This was the case in 2010 when the fire department was able to accept an assistant to the firefighters grant to replace the town's obsolete ladder truck, which is now the tower ladder. In the instance, this required a match of dollars that came from this fund. The fund currently has approximately $466,000 in it, and the town is seeking to add $225,000 for future fire apparatus purchases. Over the years, this fund has also been used to replace a pumper tanker, command SUV, UTV, and a rescue boat. This article is funded from unassigned fund balances with no monies to be raised by taxation. This article is recommended by the Select Board and Budget Committee.
Any discussion on Article 8? Yes.
Hi, Liz Dolan. I always forget what that unassigned fund balance is. Where do we get money that's not from taxation?
Unassigned fund balance could be left over from taxation from previous years, and it also could be from unexpected funds like more car registrations and things like that. Anything from the school that comes back that goes into unassigned fund balance, then that's used to offset taxes at the school. So that's kind of where it comes from. Where we have unexpected revenues would go into the unassigned fund balance.
Do we ever see that? I mean, do you show what was left over?
Do you want to know how much is in the balance? Is that what you're asking? I'm not really sure what your question is.
I do, but I also... Yes, because it's being used to cover quite a few things here, but I'd also like when you have leftover money on this thing, I should be seeing, oh, we didn't spend 25,000, there's 25,000 left there.
Well, what you're looking at is proposed budget for next year.
But I see last
we
year's
still have-
numbers too.
Yes, but we still have to, whatever we don't spend goes into the unreserved fund balance.
Ooh, I'd like to know how much
That's
is
about,
going
what,
in there.
5 million, 5.6, Derek? I didn't even look at it.
It's estimated at 5.2 million.
It's 5.2 million, so the estimate is right this time. And we are required by the state to carry an unassigned fund balance in case of emergencies. It's not something that we just put in the, say it's like a bank account. The state recommends a percentage of is carried in an unassigned fund balance.
So each department puts a little bit extra on their budget?
Not necessarily, that's not true.
How do they get it?
Well, some of the things aren't over expended. There could be, let's say we lost a firefighter or something and we didn't replace them and we had extra funds, that would go back into the unassigned fund balance. Things like that.
But that's part of their budget.
But that's not, that budget, that money has already been raised by taxes from the previous year.
I know, but I think it should be publicized what is left.
It is publicized, it's right here.
Well, you just said it's not on there.
Oh, no, this is what the unassigned, it tells you what the unassigned fund balance is.
Oh, that's the graph.
I think Barbara had a question or input.
Barbara?
Thank you, Barbara Griffin. And I think I just did something here. If I go, I need to tell you that you went through the budget presentation. I was at the Budget Committee hearing, but if you weren't, you would have probably had a hard time with that presentation. It probably would have been helpful if the charts that were handed out were gone over. But for purposes of the unassigned fund balance question, I intended to come to the microphone for this because it is clear that we're doing a lot by drawing down the unassigned fund balance, which does not affect the tax rate, but obviously affects the money we have in reserve for emergencies. So if I want to make sure I understand this chart correctly, so the last page of the handout had an unassigned fund balance, and an unassigned fund balance, my understanding is, comes from the accumulation of tax-generated revenues and unanticipated revenues that are not expended during the course of the year and are not used to offset the tax rate in the next year. Sort of like at the end of the month in your household budget, when you have extra money, you can keep it in the bank account so that you can maybe accumulate it over the months, or you can use it to offset expenses in your next budget. And I'm seeing nods, so I think I have it. So if I look at this chart and I go back to 2010, and I'm going back there because that's sort of when we were coming out of the recession, and I'm sort of looking at the numbers, that bottom line is that 5% DRA minimum, which, am I correct that that's the minimum amount that the Department of Revenue Administration wants the town to hold to ensure that expenses can be covered in case there are issues with cash flow? And so we don't have to borrow. I understand that this town historically has not borrowed. The last time there was any borrowing done, it was from the sewer enterprise fund. We did not have to go to to a commercial product. And then we have sources of unassigned, of this money that's sitting in essentially our town checking account. And as I recall, the town holds it in the checking account because the school district isn't supposed to be carrying money forward, which is part of why there was the problem with the 9 million that they found. And the top line is the maximum amount that DRA would allow us to hold based on our budget. So the money, I understand the question to be sort of, isn't that money coming back to the taxpayer? And it sort of is, because it sounds like the board has made the decision to use some of that unassigned fund balance to pay for things that would otherwise be impacted by the tax rate. So my question comes to 2020, where we have, at the very end of this chart, we have the red line and the select board target sort of coming together. And I just want to note that it would appear our unreserved fund balance is now going down to the level that we were at the time of the last recession. And I want to know whether the board had any discussions about what it's going to do in future years, because it doesn't seem to me we want it to get much lower than it will be at the end of this year.
It's not $2 million. Barbara, if I understood what you were asking, you said that at the recession in 2010, it was a 5%, which was about $2 million. And now our estimated balance on 12/31/19 is 5.2. That's what we're trying to maintain. And when it gets up there, we took a look at it and said, okay, we can afford to spend the $225,000 again on the in the capital reserve fund. And also, if you remember last year, we spent about $500,000 out of that fund for the fields over at the transfer station and a few other things that we bought property. We had a capital reserve fund, some property in the future. So we maintained the fund at a healthy level, but it's not that we're reducing it by the amount that we're maintaining the amount that DRA recommends we have plus a little. Does that answer your questions?
Anyone else?
Move to restrict reconsideration on Article 8.
Second.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to restrict reconsideration of Article 8. It's been seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes. Article 9.
Move Article 9 to the floor.
Is there a second?
Second.
You got the floor.
Thank you, sir. This article would deposit $100,000 in the Grassmere Town Hall Capital Reserve Fund, which was established back in 2005. The Select Board and the Historic District Commission are designated as agents to expend and could access this fund anytime during the year. The fund currently has approximately $171,000 in it, and is particularly this year would add $100,000 for construction of a new two-story addition to the rear of the building. The second floor of the Grassmere Town Hall has been restored through grants, volunteer efforts, and previous use of this fund. The space is available for residents of Goffstown, but is only accessed using the front stairwell. The addition will have an elevator to restore the second floor and making this space available to all residents of the town of Goffstown. It will include storage and additional bathrooms on the second floor. In 2018, the article was recorded, updated, and probated construction costs estimated for an additional $450,000. This is the second of 3 planned $100,000 deposits into the Capital Reserve Fund. The Select Board and Historic District Commission will explore grant opportunities and other funding sources. This Capital Reserve Fund can be used for any required matching grants as well. This article would be funded by unassigned fund balances with no monies raised for taxation. This article is recommended by the Select Board and the Budget Committee.
Any discussion on Article 9?
I'd like to move this,
Just a minute.
yep.
All right.
Motion to reconstrict, the recommendation of the Article 9.
Second.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor to restrict reconsideration of Article 9. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, go to Article 10.
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 10 to the floor.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and good evening. This article seeks to increase the road plan funding provided in the operating budget to meet the goals identified in the capital improvement program. This article would add an additional $500,000 to the road plan budget in the operating budget for a total of $1.6 million. Last year, 2019, the DPW addressed approximately 6% of the overall road network through reclamation, maintenance overlays, and thin shims. The 2020 road plan budget will support work on about 7.7% of the town's total road network. This plan was built upon a concept known as a town as general contractor method for project delivery, which provides for the efficient use of taxpayer dollars and greater flexibility when it comes to scheduling. The reclamation program will continue to target collector roads, which have the higher traffic volumes, and locations where underground utility expansions or replacements are planned so we can take advantage of the economy of scale and do both projects at the same time. Maintenance overlays and lower road traffic roads will augment the plan as time and budget allow. Passage of this article will direct the Select Board to include this amount in future operating and default budgets of the town. This article is to be funded from the unassigned fund balance, resulting in no monies to be raised from taxation. This article is recommended by both the Select Board and the Budget Committee.
All right. The floor is open for discussion on Article 10. Anyone? Is there a motion?
Motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 10.
Is there a second?
There is right here, second.
All right. There's a motion on the floor that's been seconded to restrict reconsideration of Article 10. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so that passes. We'll go to 11.
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 11 to the floor.
Do you wish to address it?
Yes, I do. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. This article would continue taxpayer support of Crispin House Coalition for Youth. Crispin's House has provided services to the youth and families of Goffstown for over 30 years, providing a wide range of programs, opportunities to help the kids make positive choices. The annual budget for Crispin House is about $106,000. The warrant article funds $20,000, or 19% of that budget. The organization works hard to raise the remaining funds through fundraising activities, community involvement, and grants. This article demonstrates strong and continued community support, which helps these efforts. The newest program is the Challenge Day program. Challenge Days addresses issues of violence, bullying, conflict management, suicide, peer pressure, alcohol, and drugs. Other programs include an accredited juvenile court diversion program, volunteers, youth forums, suicide prevention, and substance misuse prevention. This article is recommended by the Select Board and the Budget Committee.
Is there any discussion on this article? Yes, sir.
Spencer Dias. I've just received a message from Richard Manzo saying that there's actually an error in Article 11. The Budget Committee did not vote unanimously to support this. There was one vote against it by Richard Manzo, and he wishes for it to be correct.
That's hearsay. Can't present that.
Point of order, Budget Committee recommended it. Doesn't matter if one
Okay,
person
well, I'm just
did
letting you
not.
know, that's for discussion, that it is incorrect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
Motion to restrict reconsideration.
Okay, is it
Oh,
second?
I'm sorry, I didn't see Barbara.
I'm sorry. Is there somebody that wishes to be heard?
Barbara does.
All right, Barbara.
Barbara Griffin, that sounded like a question that I'd like an answer to. Was the Budget Committee vote unanimous or not? Because that should be represented properly on the warrant. And to be honest, I'm not sure. I would not think that would require of action by this body, but I would like to ensure that votes on the warrant that townspeople see in March are an accurate reflection of what committees did. Thank you.
What's the answer?
Well, we can do that, yes, but it was 11-1 vote. Richard Manzo abstained, was the vote, so it's, Derek, we're going to change that to put that in there, the article? It's not presented that way.
No, correct. That is an error on the warrant. It should be 11-1, and that's reflected in the minutes, and we can make that change for the ballot.
There.
Anyone else?
Motion to restrict reconsideration.
Right, is there a second? All right, there's a motion pending that's been seconded to restrict reconsideration of Article 11. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes. Article 12.
I move Article 12 to the floor.
Okay, you wish to address it? Was it
That's
seconded?
Now it has. This article would continue taxpayer support of the Goffstown Main Street program. Goffstown Main Street program's mission is to provide support, advice, and promotion to current and potential business owners and residents of the designated Main Street area using the National Main Street Center's four-point approach. The four-point approach revolves around principles of effective design, promotion, economic restructuring, and organization as the keys to economic revitalization of the historic downtown. Many of you are familiar with the special events sponsored by Main Street, including Old Home Days, concerts on the Common, a giant pumpkin regatta, uncommon art on the Common, and Friday night under the lights and art show-offs. These events bring businesses to the village area as well as fostering a sense of community. The passage of this warrant article would provide $15,000 towards their 2020 budget of $82,000. This article is recommended by the Select Board. This article is not recommended by the Budget Committee.
Discussion on Article 12, please. Yes.
Claire Willard. Thank you. I'm wondering why this was not recommended by the Budget Committee?
You have to ask the Budget Committee.
Well, that would have been something that would have been taken up at the Budget Committee public hearing, wouldn't it? That's when the budget committee people have input on the budget.
Are you going to answer that question?
Yeah, Cole Reel, Chair of the Budget Committee. There were issues raised at the Budget Committee deliberations about some of the financial transparency. We just didn't have as much information about it as we had with the Crispin's house, and I think a lot of folks felt not comfortable recommending it due to that. On a personal capacity, I've also heard from Main Street business owners who would like to see kind of Main Street revamped and don't feel like it properly serves the business owners as it currently exists. So that's on a personal capacity, but the rest was kind of the deliberations from the committee.
Anyone else?
Move to restrict reconsideration.
Okay, there's a motion, you wish to be heard on this article?
Charity Frost, Goffstown resident, and also I'm the director of the Goffstown Main Street program. I wanted to thank the select board for their support of the warrant article, and also to clarify a little bit about the transparency issues mentioned by Cole. So there was just some confusion. We had an interim director. I just have returned to my position after being on maternity leave, and there was an error on our end, and the budget didn't actually get submitted to the budget committee. So that was causing the transparency issue because they didn't get the paperwork that was required for that that we had intended to submit. So it caused some issues there, and I just wanted to clarify as to why we were appearing not to be transparent. So that people have that information, that it wasn't intentional. But there's a deadline to submit things, and when it's not submitted, then it can't be reviewed. So, oh, I'm sorry. I can repeat that. I don't know if it ended up on the record.
Would you mind speak directly into the mic and a
Sure.
little louder, please?
Yeah, that's no problem. I apologize. It sounded loud to me, but now that I'm hearing on this, it does not sound loud before now. So I'm Charity Frost. I'm the director at the Main Street program, and I was on maternity leave. We had an interim director in my absence who was new to this whole process and did not realize that submitting the budget and information about
Get closer to the mic.
our budget to the select board for the initial vote did not carry over to the budget committee. So that is what caused the transparency issues, because he did not realize that. And so I just wanted to clarify why there was a transparency issue. That was pretty much why I was up here. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else?
I already made the motion. Second. I already made the motion. Second.
It has been seconded. All right, there's a motion on the floor that's been seconded to restrict reconsideration of Article 12. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll go to, that was passed, that motion. Article 13, this is an article that was submitted by petition, and there's an amendment to this article.
Which article?
Article 13. I'm sorry, I've received an amendment to Article 13. And,
The floor yet.
yep. Is somebody going to move it to the floor?
Yeah, I will. Move Article 13 to the floor.
All right. Okay, it's on the floor. This is a motion to amend Article 13, and the motion is made by Claire Roulard and seconded by Ellen Vermakowitz. And the motion reads as, the article, it would be amended as follows. To see if the town will vote to adopt the provisions of RSA Chapter 72, I'm sorry. To see if the town will vote to adopt the provisions of RSA 72, Section 35, 1A, for the optional veterans tax credit of, quote, $2,000, end quote, for service-connected total, quote, and permanent, end quote, disability on residential property, and replace the standard tax credit referenced in this, quote, section, end quote. The quoted language are the changes made to the language. Now, would someone care to address that motion?
Point of order. Brad Parkhurst, 81 South Mass Street. Not against the amendment or anything, but don't you first have to present the warrant article as written before it is amended?
Well, that's a good point of order.
Because you brought it to the floor, at least bring the amendment, the warrant article out, and then address the amendment to it.
I'm going to accept your point of order.
Thank you.
All right. I'll read it. The original article reads as follows. Right, that's what I was telling her. This article reads as follows. It was submitted by petition. It seeks to increase the maximum on the veterans' property tax credit for service-connected total disability from $2,000 to $4,000. In 2018, the New Hampshire legislature increased the maximum on this tax credit from $2,000 to $4,000. This tax credit has been modified in the past. In 1990, it was increased from $700 to $1,400, and in 2004, it was increased from $1,400 to $2,000. In 2019, the town had 50 such credits on the MS1 inventory of valuation. If the town maintains 50 credits in 2020, it is estimated passage of this article would increase the war service credits by $75,000 to $100,000. These tax credits need to be made up by other property taxpayers. It is estimated passage of this article would increase the tax rate between 4 cents and 6 cents per thousand, depending on the number of credits for 2020. The article was recommended by the Select Board. So there. Now, it's on the floor. Now, do you wish to address the amendment?
Sure, I do. Thank you. Claire Roulard. I actually became aware of this amendment today as I was preparing for the hearing tonight, but I want to thank everybody for the work on this. And I also want to say that I am very thankful to all the veterans in our town. However, our town is very good to our veterans. Currently, permanently and totally disabled veterans, and important to note, and permanently disabled veterans are allowed a $2,000 a year exemption on their taxes, in addition to the all veterans $500 a year credit. That's $2,500 a year. This bill submitted by petition my understanding was an individual with 28 good supporters, for lack of a better word, and probably with good intention. However, $4,000 to increase a totally disabled veteran is different than a totally disabled and permanently disabled veteran. The statute says that in order for a veteran to obtain this particular benefit, they must produce to the town clerk or a person in the town proof from the Veterans Association that in fact they are totally and permanently disabled, 100%. The language in this particular article did not reflect that. That is the language that is required in the statute. For the veterans to have a $4,000 increase, my understanding is, and I learned this today as well, there are 50 such veterans that are totally and permanently disabled. That would be $225,000 a year in tax offset given to veterans that would be put on the other taxpayers of this town. And although I think that the hearts of the select members were there, the problem is that the veterans that get the benefit they have now are appreciative of the amount and do not think that they should have an additional veteran benefit of $2,000 more a year. So my husband, I heard that in the back, my husband would participate in this, and when I showed it to him and asked him his thoughts, he said, "This is not right. We're taking the money from the seniors and the people that can't afford the housing in this town now. I don't think we should do this." So here I am. I think we need to reduce the amount to $2,000 back to what it is and get the wording of this correct so that the veterans that look at this understand you have to be totally and permanently disabled. We can revisit this in another year. We can have more individuals look at whether or not we should or should not do the increase to the generous amount that we currently have. And I hope that people will support this. Thank you.
Anyone else on the amendment? Yes, sir.
My name is Scott Bartlett. I am a resident of Goffstown. I'm also the assessor. I believe I just need to be able to clarify things a little bit more so that there's a good understanding of what this means. If you don't mind, I'm going to back up because I tend to speak a little bit louder anyways. Can everybody hear me? All right, so we'll get up here. The term, if you look at the statute, the term under 7235 is service-connected total disability. The statute goes on to define that as any person who has been honorably discharged or an officer honorably separated from the military service of the United States and who has total and permanent service-connected disability, or who is a double amputee or paraplegic because of service-connected injury, or the surviving spouse of such a person. And it goes on to talk about what they will receive. The wording service-connected total disability is defined as I just read. You don't need to put in the term permanent to the actual article. The only thing that the article is doing is determining the amount that is needed. It can be anywhere from $700 to $4,000. That is the question that really needs to be raised here. And I'm not going to address that. That is not up to me. Right now, we do have 50 totally or service-connected total disability recipients. In 2019, that's what we gave out. If we had the same number next year and the taxes were the same, the tax rate was the same, there would be, if we use the $4,000, there would be an increase in the amount of taxes needed to be raised by taxes of only $75,000. This would not add anybody other than those who qualify for the entire statute. The statute goes on very clearly to define what I need to look at in order to qualify them. So I really think it's not as much the wording here that is the issue. It really comes down to, should it be $4,000? Should it be $2,000? That's up to this board. I'm not going to weigh in on that because as an assessor, I try to be as unbiased as I can. But I do want to make sure that we understand that the term service-connected total disability refers to that wording that I said. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire Willard. Thank you for that explanation, Scott. As an assessor, you probably are correct in every single thing you said. As an attorney, I believe the language is needed. I also believe that an individual reading this statute that thinks that they would qualify must provide a document to the town clerk that they are totally and permanently 100% disabled. I understand what the assessor is saying. I would respectfully disagree. Thank you.
Yes. It's not her turn.
Ellen Vermakowitz, Goffstown. I seconded this motion amendment for the purpose of discussion because I totally and completely support all our veterans, not just disabled. And I'm starting to be a little confused about whether the language is appropriate or not. So I don't know if it's just me. I support a higher amount for our veterans that are totally and completely permanently disabled. My concern is I'm not understanding whether the language covers it appropriately. So if someone can help explain that, why it was written the way it was, as opposed to what Ms. Roulette's saying, I'm a little confused about it.
Well, I'm not sure what she said. She seconded the amendment. Barbara, were you wanting to?
Well, I wanted to speak to the amendment, and I think I will make my comment.
You're going to speak up.
Barbara Griffin, we have a little difference of opinion, apparently, in regards to statutory interpretation and what's needed. I don't think the wording of the amendment as proposed provides any issue in regards to passage because of the statute, and as the assessor explained how the statute read, and there are issues in regards to making clear what the notice is as to what's required. And I speak as someone married to a veteran, and I speak as the sister of my now deceased brother, 100% permanently disabled from that disability. So I am not concerned with the language change provided, and I think it provides a clearer notice to everyone voting that it is not just a total disability, it is a permanent, because believe it or not, in the world of the military, even I think there are 10 different honorable discharges, there's a number of different levels of disability, and there are different permanency requirements. I actually am speaking in favor of the amendment. I would presume that people would know from my association I am in favor of veterans, but this town, as do many, support enabling legislation that allows tax credits to go up, and nobody wants to say no. And because you're perceived as not being supportive or in favor of the group. I suspect the selectmen have not had tax deeding issues with permanently and disabled veterans because of an inability to pay their tax bill. And I know from my experience on the Board of Selectmen that when there are issues with taxes due on property, they have always worked with residents to make sure that property is not taken for taxes when somebody is living in the house and wants it. So what we have here is part of apparently an individual bringing forward a petition because there was action taken in Concord that allowed towns to increase this credit. And it's a credit. And from a town management standpoint, I understand it's only 50, but every time we raise a credit, we increase the taxes that have to be raised somewhere else. As I pointed out, our unreserved fund balance margin from the DRA minimum rate will be at approximately the same level at the end of 2020 as it was 10 years ago. I have concerns about spending in the future based on past approvals we've done here in town, and I appreciate what somebody brought a petition article forward to do, but as I said, I'm not aware of any issue that was raised with the Board of Selectmen in regards to this issue, and I am not sure as a community why we would be raising it. I understand there's been enabling legislation that allows us to do it, and I understand we are all appreciative of our veterans, but they get a lot of benefits, and as I said, even with my personal background, I would be in favor of the amendment. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard on the amendment? Brad.
Brad Parkhurst, 81 South Mass Street. I just have a couple of questions. This was submitted by petition, so the wording was not changed by the Select Board. Is that correct? And Claire, what you're trying to do is reduce the amount from $4,000 to $2,000. Can we do that on a petition article? We can. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we're going to vote on the amendment. This is the amendment to Article 13. This is I'm going to quote the language that would replace Article 13 language. And this is it. To see if the town will vote to adopt the provisions of RSA Chapter 72, Section 35, 1A, for an optional veterans tax credit of $2,000 for service-connected total and permanent disability on residential property and replace the standard tax credit referenced in this section. That's the amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Say it passed.
Marie Morgan, is it possible to request people raise their hands so you could see the difference in the vote?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Thank you.
I don't have a problem with that. We have 4 counters. I need to get the counters ready to work. Okay. All in favor of the amendment? Does anyone want me to read it again? Yes, I do. All right, I'm going to read it again. To see if the town will vote to adopt the provisions of RSA Chapter 72, Section 35, 1A, for an optional veterans tax credit of $2,000 for service-connected total and permanent disability on residential property and replace the standard tax credit referenced in this section. That's the amendment. Okay? If you are in favor of that amendment, stand up. And show your voter card. See.
I'm abstaining.
Why don't you put yes by one, and then get the number of no on the same piece of paper?
On the-
Okay. So put Y on that.
Okay, are we all done counting? Yeses? All right, sit down. All opposed, stand up.
I'm abstaining.
Hmm?
I'm abstaining. Can I do that?
You can lift the vote.
I don't, I'm going on her word. I don't know if her word's true or not. I have to read it myself.
Brad, come here. That's it. I don't know, who can you? Who can the front there? Bill, did you get, who got to get the guys in front? I got the front. Oh, is this yours?
13 and 3. Yep.
I abstained. Because I don't know if she's telling the truth. I haven't read that myself. I'm not going on somebody else's word. I have to study it myself.
Okay,
She could be saying something that's not true.
the result, the amendment passed by a vote of 36 to 11. So now, we'll go to Article 14. I'm sorry?
Motion to restrict reconsideration. Seconded. Jared Talbot.
Been motioned and seconded?
But Timothy Stetson seconded.
Okay. But a motion made and seconded to restrict reconsideration of the amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Fine, then we'll go to Article 14.
Do we have to vote on the amended article?
I don't think so.
No,
No.
it appears
No.
as presented.
It's gonna be on the warrant in the amended fashion. Okay. Article 14 was submitted by petition. I guess I'll have to read it, 'cause. And what this says is this.
I'll move Article 14 to the floor.
All right, and it reads as follows: to see if the town will urge the New Hampshire General Court, following the 2020 census, to redraw the state's political district maps in a fair manner, providing for effective representation of New Hampshire's voters. And, in order to fulfill this obligation, the New Hampshire General Court shall appoint an independent redistricting commission to draw the district maps in a way that does not rely on partisan data favoring political parties of candidates. Within 30 days after the town election, the record of the vote approving this article shall be transmitted by written notice from the Goffstown Select Board to all Goffstown state legislators and to the governor of the state, informing them of the results. Submitted by petition. Now, is there a petitioner in the hall who wishes to address this article?
Yes, sir. Marie Morgan.
We're not passing out papers in here. No, we're not.
No, take these back.
No, we're not, no, you can't.
You should have left that earlier. Oh, you're fine.
Again, my name is Marie Morgan. Redistricting occurs when U.S. congressional representatives, executive council members, and state legislators are elected by voters grouped into districts. But populations change. Some districts gain residents, while others lose them. That's why district boundaries are redrawn every 10 years after the U.S. Census to ensure each district has about the same number of people and that districts are reflective and representative of the voters in those areas. Who determines district boundaries? In New Hampshire, the state legislature sets districts' boundaries after receiving the results of the 10-year census. Why does it matter? Well, redistricting impacts political influence. Sometimes the political party in the majority will draw districts which favor its own political party members. Sometimes a political party will pack voters of the other party into one district while leaving fewer members of that party in surrounding districts. So it is easier for the majority party members to win in those districts. I'm almost done. So, why is an independent redistricting commission a good idea? Well, it will be made up of equal members of each party and an equal number of other nonpartisan members who will have the authority to draft district boundaries through an open and transparent process, enabling full public consideration and comment to make elections fair and more representative of voters. As of May 2019, 8 states had independent redistricting commissions. Why would we want to send the record of this vote to the governor and to our 6 state representatives? Sending the record of Article 14's vote to our governor and state representatives will emphasize the significance of an independent redistricting commission to Goffstown voters. Thank you.
Anyone wish to be heard on this? Yes.
Claire Roulard, hope you're not sick of me yet. Article 14, requiring a redistricting commission, violates the New Hampshire Constitution, Article 11 and Article 26, which basically requires that the state legislature draw the lines for redistricting. So passing an article that we want them to have a commission is really a little bit out of line when you have a constitution that says it's the legislature that does it. It would have to be a constitutional amendment. So I'm opposed to this article, and I'd like to have a vote on this, an individual vote on this. Thank you.
May I answer? May I
Just
speak
before you
to
respond,
that?
anyone else wish to be heard? Yes. You'll get another turn.
Actually, I'd like to have my recollection refreshed, that a petitioner can have a warrant article put on. I note that there was some discussion at the selectmen's meeting as to whether a recommendation had to go on, and there's nothing on the petitioned article for tonight for us to review. So when this goes on the warrant, does it have a position of anybody, or because it's submitted by petition and doesn't involve dollars, will it go on without recommendation?
My understanding. The board can recommend or not recommend, or not have a position. Our board decided not to take a position on this article.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
David Pierce, 21 Mill Street. Should this article be favorably passed by the voters in March, is the Select Board compelled to sign such a letter?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess I'd have to check with the town attorney, but I would think that if the overwhelming voters supported an article like that instructed the select board to do something, I think that we would probably take it under consideration and possibly do it. I mean, if the voters tell me to do something, I'm probably going to do it.
Yes.
Thank you, Marie Morgan. Regarding the letter, I would expect it would just be a notice, not necessarily saying that the select board approves the vote. It's just a matter of transmitting the information. Regarding Claire Roulard's comments, I believe there is a bill presently in the legislature and covering this information, and the Independent Redistricting Commission, after it has met in each county and talked to the voters and gotten their input, they would present their proposal to the legislature for a vote for the legislature to approve what the Independent Redistricting Commission has presented. And if the legislature does not accept the plan, then it would have to be redone. Thank you.
Was that a hand back there? No, I guess not. Barbara, you want to be heard?
Thank you, Barbara Griffin. Just to clarify, I'm actually holding the bill that Ms. Morgan referred to. This independent redistricting is sort of something that's been going on since 2016 with a couple of national PACs that are involved in it. The reference to the 8 legislators that currently have independent redistricting commissions, actually, the majority of those actually have the independent commission written into their constitution, and in some of those states, they actually restrict the independent redistricting commission to a particular race. The bills that are currently before the House follow a pattern that's being seen of trying to create something independent that is somewhat of a political process. But I suspect that most people in this room who have lived here for more than 12 years probably don't remember what district you were in 12 years. 12 years ago, which was different than the district you're in today. And part of that is because our population of 3 million and the number of legislators that we have makes it a little hard to make district boundaries that are sort of all over the place as compared to maybe a Texas or I think it's Indiana actually has it in for the CD as to how the district should be formed. The bills have come forward before in the House. They're back again in the House, just so you know. The bills actually are somewhat partisan. They provide that the majority party picks 10 and the minority party picks 10, and then each party picks 5, and then those 10 pick 5 others, and then some can't be lobbyists, and it's not quite as straightforward as you might think, because the process itself to go forward as a bill has all sorts of party impact on it. In regards to the end result, and I happen to sit on an election this year, we actually heard this bill. At the end of it, it's supposed to go to the legislature because, as you heard, the legislature in New Hampshire is the ultimate authority for redistricting. And so the legislature is supposed to be able to vote on this plan, and if it doesn't pass, then it goes back to this redistricting commission, and this is under the bill now. But we saw a very similar bill last term, and it was ultimately vetoed by the governor, and that veto was sustained. And one of the issues that has come out is you elect people like me every 2 years. And if you don't like me or what I do, you vote for somebody else next time. The idea is that some people have expressed a concern that if you have this independent commission, it's not really independent, and you don't have any direct say over who these people are going to be. Whereas when you have a legislator that's up there, you have direct access to it. Some of the problems, I think, are perceived by virtue of the process 10 years ago, and I can tell you that there are companies out there now selling software for redistricting where you're going to plug the census data in, you're going to put in the parameters for what your districts have to be, and there are requirements regardless of what happens in regards to districts being in the same county, abutting each other, and all sorts of other parameters that have to go in. So there's going to be a lot of data out there for the census in regards to districting. I think as part of, I will tell you my logic in that this isn't needed, is that all of the seats, that is Senate, Congressional, House, and Senate, have switched parties over the past 10 years. We have the most flip-floppy legislature in the country in regards to what office is sitting in what position, be it governor, Senate, House of Representatives, and even our CDs and Senates, we all know have flipped. And again, I come back to that. Part of it is due to our population, and part of it is to our districting. So I appreciate the perception that such a process is somehow going to draw fair boundaries, but the reality is an independent districting commission is, by its nature, and I'm holding what the nature would be, is going to be political, and it deprives people of the ability to have direct input and say as to the people who ultimately vote on the plan. There are lots of other procedural issues. Obviously, if you'd like to talk about it a little more, I know some of it, and I'd be happy to talk to you. I won't take any more of your time. But in connection with this article, I urge people to really think about what it sounds like and what the reality is and how we do it in New Hampshire. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any? Okay, yes.
Several points the state rep made. Presently, or in the past, when the state legislature made the district boundaries, I do not believe I knew that they were doing it. They didn't ask my input. I don't think they asked yours, because it's my understanding that our legislators drew those districts behind closed doors. Now, this bill would allow the people to participate in the district boundary development. It would allow people to participate in the selection of the commissioners for this commission. Also, there was a comment that maybe we don't need it. And earlier, when I discussed what redistricting, why it mattered, I noted, and I'll repeat, that sometimes the political party in the majority will draw districts which favor its own political party members. Sometimes the political party will pack voters of the other party into one district, while leaving fewer members of that party in surrounding districts. So it's easier for the majority party members to win. I have here a map of the Executive Council districts from 2012, and I'm sure the people in the last row can't see it, but basically you have all the towns along the Atlantic Ocean in the same district, or some of them anyway, in District 2, and they are in the same district as Keene, Westmoreland, Charlestown, and I can't read the small things. Anyway, the Vermont side borders. So I'm not sure if anyone here can tell me what Westmoreland, New Hampshire, has in common with Dover, New Hampshire. Anybody want to help with that? Thank you.
All in favor of moving the question, which would end debate on this amendment, this article, this petitioned article, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that'll be the end of the debate on Article 14, and that's the end of the meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor of the adjournment motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you all for coming.
Good job.
job, Jeff.
Article that had an amendment. It was the petition article number 13. And the change, there were two changes. It was to change the optional veterans tax credit from what the petition had from $4,000 to $2,000. And it also changed the language by adding in for service-connected total, and these words were added, and permanent disability. So if you look at Article 13, it puts that in. You have the opportunity to change your recommendation on that. My only concern is total and permanent service-connected disability is spelled out in the RSA. Immediately after that, as the assessor explained, it talks about, or who is a double amputee or paraplegic, or a surviving spouse. This amendment identifies only a portion that's in that RSA, not all of the items. The language that was in the petition was recommended language that came from the DRA handbook, and that's been passed in the past. So I guess this is an opportunity if you want to change yours recommendation. Otherwise, it will go on the ballot with the new wording recommended by the select board 4-0 to 0.
4-0 by 4.
Chet was absent that evening.
Okay.
So this is to change the recommendation based on...
This is your option to change a recommendation if you'd like to. You don't have to. Again, my only concern is...
If we change it to we don't recommend, does the current still stay in place?
The amended language would go on if you change either your vote or if you change to recommend. The other option is this is a petition article. You have the ability to recommend or not recommend. I would say you also have the ability to, at this point,
have nothing.
to have nothing and just put it on as submit by petition.
Well, it's not submitted by petition any longer. It's submitted by...
Well, it was, okay, yep.
That's the problem.
Can they can't amend the amendment?
No. Again, it's $2,000, so
well,
it's what our current optional tax credit is, so.
But that would also include the reduction from 4 to 2, right?
Are we making it more? Are we making this more restrictive now if we adopt it?
No, I would say DRA would most likely deny. They would disallow it because there is no provision in the statute to select which class of total or service-connected totally disabled veteran. It does not give the town the authority to pick amongst them. So I would say DRA would disallow the language.
Well, I would make a motion that we have no recommendation on it. Because what I'm concerned about is,
Passing the mic just so.
oh, this one's on.
Oh, okay.
What I'm concerned about is the article being misconstrued when somebody reads it, because it doesn't include the whole RSA. It actually excludes some of the things that are in the RSA.
Right.
So if we vote to approve, are we approving deleting those items, even though you say it's not? Are we voting to delete those items out of our current rules?
My opinion is you don't have the authority to do that, but if DRA said you did, yes, you would. But again, I don't feel you have that authority. But if DRA says you do have that authority, then yes, it would limit it.
Is there a possibility we can get an opinion on this, but before Monday night, and we do it then?
Legal opinion?
Yeah.
We can talk. I can talk.
DRA.
I can talk to DRA.
Yeah. Tell DRA, read what the
Yep.
amendment is, and said, what's the consequences of this? Because part of what she said eliminates part of the RSA.
Is that
The
potentially
question is that just by reference to the RSA?
disabled
Have they
in the
picked up
definition,
RSA wording, or have they
inclusive of those
changed
people?
the
Maybe they were
eligibility
broken
in
out at some point in
the
time.
article itself? Yeah,
To
that's a
clarify, I mean, can we just get a definition of?
So do you
maybe
want
it
to?
doesn't.
I'll talk to DRA to see if they would allow the language.
I'd like to table this
as well as-
we'll table it till Monday night.
Okay. And I think that's the only business you had.
Motion?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, seeing none? And also, if we're going to put, we need to put budget committee recommendations on everything. If we're going to do it on one, you should be doing it on all of them.
They are on.
They're on all of them.
Well, they're not on this one for 8-4 or 8-4 on the Main Street.
That's not an expenditure.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Or was it on there?
Yeah, did not recommend. Yes.
Oh, was it? I didn't see it.
Yep.
I thought you asked what the vote was. That's why I gave it
Yeah.
to you.
Yes.
Derek had the minutes up.
Yeah, but